Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right. Item 7A is public hearings, appeals, presentation, recognitions, and awards. We have a presentation by Oklahoma Municipal League in recognition to city employees for reaching 25 years of service. Kelly Cox and Mike Fina, are you coming up or?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Manager, Council. This evening, we have Oklahoma Municipal League here with us to acknowledge our employees who have hit their 25 years of service. I have also with me this evening Cheryl Owens. Cheryl is going to introduce Mike. Cheryl is our Employee Engagement Coordinator. She is in charge of our employee experiences. So I wanted to be sure to include her on this.
Sure. Good evening. Hi. So Mike Fina is going to help us recognize our 25-year employees. Mike Fina.
These guys all know the drill for this, so they give me a microphone for just a minute. Hi, friends.
Hi.
Good to see everybody. I had obviously had some windshield time on my way up from Oklahoma City today, and I got to think a lot about all of you. And something occurred to me about Broken Arrow. Yeah. Thought about
He
Finn.
loves Broken Arrow. He doesn't say
I
that
do
to
love
everyone.
Broken Arrow. This is honest God truth. I was thinking about it. And this is the only, and I do a lot of these and I go to a lot of council meetings. I honestly can say that Broken Arrow City Council is the only council in the state that I feel like I have a personal relationship with everybody on the council and including the city manager. And I was thinking, well, that's interesting. And the reason why is because you guys are so active. I mean, Johnny, Scott, we've traveled to NLC together, two of our legislative committee, and then obviously the vice president of mayor's council and board member and our alternate. You guys are so active and you do such a good job for the state of Oklahoma. And I think one of the things that I am so impressed with this community, as far as how you view your job as a council member, is you don't just see it as a broken arrow. You do an incredible job here, but you understand the awesome responsibility of a municipal elected official, that it's not just in Broken Arrow, and that we are fighting for municipalities all over the country, the work that we do. So I suppose that is a long way of just thanking you guys for all of your service to the state of Oklahoma and the Municipal League, and just let you know how much I care about you guys. You're very special to me here in Broken Arrow. If it's okay, I'm going to do what I normally do, and I'm going to talk to them for a second. You guys have heard the speech so many times. Good evening, Broken Arrow. How's everyone doing? You guys are usually much happier when I come, so I need to see some smiles. So tonight we're going to recognize, I'm only going to say this once, this is how it works, employees that have worked for the city for 25 years. The reason why I say I'm only going to say that once is because I don't like the term employees when it comes to municipal professionals. I like that term, municipal professionals, because anyone that gives 25 years of their life to a municipality, that's a profession. And I think too often we downgrade people that work in municipalities, and that is very bothersome to me as a director of the Municipal League. The people that work in this city, whether they're in your fire department or your police department or your public works, they are dedicated to this community. And all the things, the great things that the people behind me do, they can't do it without the municipal professionals here. So if you would join me when you see a city employee, a municipal professional, thank them for their service. And then just use that term now, because these people are very dedicated to your community. And so one thing I always like to point out, and Mayor Shelley Selby in Yukon ruined this for me, so I will tell you what the story. She's a friend of ours, the mayor there. I have done this for 6 years, and I have handed out more than 1,000 of these awards. And for 6 years of all the cities I went to, every time I went, I always handed a certificate to someone either in the fire department or the police department or an EMT, so someone in public safety. And that always told me something about how incredibly dedicated our public safety folks are to municipal government, that they stay with the community that long. And then about a month ago, I did this in Yukon, and Yukon blew it. They didn't have a public safety person. So I will never let the mayor forgive. I'll never forgive her for that. But here we are today, and I believe we got a couple of public safety people. So Broken Arrow's got my streak going again. So, okay, without further ado, let's bring up those 25-year awards. I'll announce you guys' names. Mayor, would you join me so we can take some pictures with them? All right. The first person is actually not here, but we are going to recognize them. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that this is a firefighter, Russell Stringer. So he couldn't be here tonight. Is that a member of the fire department? Okay. So, but we did want to honor him for 25 years. Okay. So we got 3 here. And so we also hand them these really beautiful pins from Municipal League that designate their 25-year. In fact, I'll let you hand those. Okay. Our first recipient tonight is Johnny Collier. Where's Johnny?
Water utilities, all their water. I locate the water lines, so I can make sure that the contractors don't tear them up. Yes, this one. Try to make sure. Thank you. Why don't we let you here? We'll put you in the middle. Thank you for sure.
Okay. Our next recipient is Cameron Ayers. And Cameron, I believe this is for the fire department. Okay, last but of course not least, we have, so we're at the Oscars, okay. Paul Bighorse. Excellent. You're busy in Broken Arrow.
Great job, Paul.
Mayor, thank you. Okay, that's all the gifts I have tonight. Unlike last year when I had to drive right back to Oklahoma City, I'm actually staying in Broken Arrow tonight. So my plan is to go find a fabulous meal and spend some tax dollars here. So
We like it.
thank you. Thanks for having me. It's good to see all you guys. So
Good to see you. See you.
Thanks, Mike.
good night.
All right, and next item is item 7B, recognition of Broken Arrow Blue Star Mothers, Chapter 5, for 20 years of service to the city of Broken Arrow and to our U.S. military service members. So we're gonna have Michaela, but I'm gonna go ahead and speak on this. I'm gonna read the certificate of recognition first. Blue Star Mothers, Chapter 5, Broken Arrow Blue Star Mothers, Chapter 5 is made up of a group of hardworking mothers of and advocates for current and former U.S. military servicemen and women. These women, along with a multitude of volunteers, work tirelessly each week to provide care packages filled with essentials and special items that our U.S. military service members may not otherwise receive. Since its inception on March 1st, 2003, Broken Arrow Blue Star Mothers, Chapter 5, has sent an average of 250 care packages per month to service members all over the world, which equals nearly 50,000 packages and a value of over $3 million in package equipment or content and postage. In recognition of your incredible 20-year commitment to the city of Broken Arrow and to our U.S. military, we have a certificate of recognition for all of you. If you guys want to come on down, I'll present this to you. But if you're not aware, the Blue Star Mothers every Tuesday from 4 to 8 p.m., I believe, they sort all the items at their location at the Broken Arrow Veterans Center. And then they also, on Saturday mornings, stuff all those boxes every Saturday morning from 9 to 1. And then sometimes we get so many volunteers that we get it done really early. But
Like 50?
yeah. But you guys do a tremendous service to our military service members, obviously. So we thank you guys. And of course, you guys hold this.
Thank you.
Let me take it. I'm like, I knew she was here.
I lost her too. She was like,
You like went incognito on us. Oh.
let's try and get out of the way.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Beautiful.
All right.
Them? Thank you guys for your consistent efforts. Y'all are so consistent and help so many people. They also do an amazing job helping run the Broken Arrow Veterans Center. All right, item 7C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the City of Broken Arrow Challenge Coin. Michaela Barton, come on down again.
Good evening. Good evening. So several months ago, the mayor reached out to the city manager, just kind of inquiring about the potential of Broken Arrow creating a custom challenge coin. So challenge coins, you guys probably all know, but they kind of started as a U.S. military tradition, but I think they've gained popularity over the years and have become something that municipalities use and give for special recognitions or other special events. And so here is, after many drafts, this is the most recent. So two-sided metal. It's kind of hard to see from this what it'll look like, but this is what we came up with and included a lot of the different aspects that were important to the mayor. So just wanted to get feedback from the entire council. The idea is that they will be used by the council and sort of at your discretion, but hopefully used for special occasions and moments and not just given to anyone. So we'd like to just order a minimum quantity just to make sure they end up being the quality and end up being what we have in our mind. But that's kind of where we wanted to start. So just wanted to see if there was any feedback.
Well, like one of my comments for council remarks was going to be who I got to meet today, and Chief handed him a challenge coin, and I thought, well, how cool would it have been if we would have had a city challenge coin as well that I could have presented to him. So, but what are your?
I think it turned out great.
I do
I
too.
love the American flag and our logo,
It
and
kind of has all the aspects,
Yeah.
just in my opinion. It has the city of Broken Arrow, the state, and then and God We Trust, which is above our chamber, and then the American flag, and then of course I won't comment on our city logo, but
I'll
Just kidding.
comment on our city logo.
It does have a broken arrow on it. So,
we
I
with the broken
particularly
arrow.
like that it had a broken arrow on it.
yes.
At least they can really defines the city and a broken arrow. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the other one doesn't, but it's easy. You don't have to explain who you are. It's broken arrow.
Well, one side's a little more traditional and the other one is sort of modern. You see that there's little roses in there along the edge too that'll be raised metal as well.
Oh,
So
nice.
Will we develop a council policy about when these are handed out so we know the appropriate time and the not appropriate time to do so? Because I assume if we adopt this design, then it will continue for successive councils, successive mayors and so forth. So there
Mhm.
probably should be some kind of concept about when
Yeah.
they're supposed to be handed out so that they don't lose their value because we
Yeah.
give them willy-nilly.
Well, the
Right.
thought behind a challenge coin has its own, it's like, it's at your discretion of when you're honoring someone or you meet someone special, or it's kind of a traditional thing. So it doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, doesn't need to be turned into a governmental policy per se. I mean, it's like the meeting today was with a former Brazilian president. Like that would have been amazing. And that would have been a great honor to be able to present him with our city's challenge coin. So those kind of things are,
Actually went to college with that former president's son. So
Oh.
I might say that unlike the military who started this, if you get caught without your coin, you've got to buy a beer.
Yeah.
So we don't want to go to that.
Yeah, I certainly don't want that.
Yeah.
Right, this needs to be on that professional level.
Professional.
I carry
Yeah.
that coin because I can't afford all of it.
And that's what I meant, just having a sense of its purpose.
I think it looks good. Good
I
job,
love it.
Kayla.
I love it.
Michael, do you have any thoughts from a military perspective or just from a leadership city perspective?
Thanks, Mayor. I think all of you are right, honestly. I mean, it needs, to me, it was given, it is an honor to receive one of those. A lot of communities have, you try to collect them because they are very special. They've gone through the same process, whether it was 2 months ago or 20 years ago, the same process we did. And so I would just really encourage, if I use them, it's going to be as some special recognition for someone, or to try to if someone asks me for broken arrows. And so I think it could be a citizen that's done something that goes above and beyond. It could be a city employee. It could be another elected official. Could be another community. Most police departments, fire departments have them. And so I do think it should just be, it should be made clear that what they're for, and because then you diminish it if you
Right.
don't. And
I will
think
say we
that's-
also, oh, sorry.
and I think that's what really all of you are saying, is that it needs to be some special recognition towards whether it's an employee, a business, another municipality, another elected official.
We do get sort of I've received them a couple times, just sort of the spam, if you will, emails that are requesting them because people do collect them. So I don't know if that would be something that we'd want to say wouldn't necessarily be where we just are sending them out to people we don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But that's another time I've seen them requested.
Well, and I trust the judgment of every member of the council
Yeah.
on who to give it. That's what the issue, but just making sure that it maintains
Remains
its
that.
specialness.
If you have getting 50, we're only going to get so much a piece.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
It's not like you can give them out every day.
Yeah.
So I think we'd learn in the short run that, we need to kind of hang on to them for the times that we need them. So just allotting each councilman so many, or staff, or however you're going to divvy it up. That should in itself kind of guide us in when and to whom we want to give them.
I think it's very special, and some folks are going to want some of our elected representatives at other levels. I can see our delegation nationally would like to have those in their office for the communities they represent. But I think as long as we keep it to where it's something noteworthy, or it's in exchange for another coin, I think that's consistent with what I've heard all of you say, what you're interested in doing.
Because
I noticed
usually
when-
people have an understanding of what it means. Like
Right.
if you receive one, or if you're giving one, you understand what it means. So yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I know it went through a bunch of different renditions, and I really like this. Looks great.
I'd make
I
a
like the way
motion.
the arrow kind of goes outside the circle. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's like we're going outside the box a little.
We're shooting.
It's very, it's
Shooting.
symbolic to me.
I make a motion to approve the design.
Second.
Whoops, sorry.
Lisa seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mayor, if I can, when you finish voting, just to make it clear, because obviously we're spending some public dollars here. For 50 coins, it's $500. So I don't want anybody in the public to think that we're going hog wild in terms of what we're spending on these coins. We have gone through the process of finding someone that can make it for very inexpensively. So I just want to make that clear, because sometimes these tails grow taller down the line about how much we spend on them.
Yes.
Thank
They're
you.
real
Do
gold.
you have a timetable when you're going to get these in?
Well, we can order them tomorrow if it was approved. So hopefully in a few weeks,
Stop
and
by
hope.
your office this evening.
Yes. I'll do that before I go home. And hopefully they're here before NLC, because I'm guessing there will be people there that you'd like to give them to, but I don't know that for
Yeah,
sure.
we'll
But
see.
that's the goal.
Thank you for all your work on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
All right. Item 8 is citizens' opportunity to address the council. Just a reminder that no action can be taken on matters underneath this item. So first up, we have Sonia Potter. Good evening.
I work as a security guard at Garnett and 41st. And things have happened at public establishments like Quick Trip. This, I don't know how to bring it about or how to present it in a respectable way. I was in the ladies' room when a transgender male entered, like forcefully against the door. And if there had been a child by themselves, which parents let them come in by themselves, or an elder lady, I addressed him. I says, I don't believe a man should come into the sanctuary of a woman's bathroom. And he headed towards the back stall. And he says, I'm transgender. I says, I don't care what you are. I don't think a man should come into a woman's bathroom. And I was wondering if there is a law against this, or if they can bring up a law against it that an establishment would build a bathroom just for transgenders or people of same sex or opposite sex becoming another sex. Because that puts our children, that puts our ladies that have never experienced something like this at risk. And I am against Joe Biden's agenda. I come against anything that comes against the Ten Commandments. So I don't know whether it is already in law or whether it can become a law that a transgender does not enter either sexual bathrooms, have one off to themselves.
It's not a law, but thank you for bringing attention to this.
Okay.
We can't take a action on this as a body since it wasn't on the agenda, but
Yeah.
we can take note of what your concerns are.
Okay.
Where did you
Thank
say
you.
that it was at?
Garnett and 41st Street, Quick Trip. I don't want it to come to Broken Arrow.
Okay, I started to say that wouldn't be in Broken Arrow, but the same laws would apply there that in Tulsa that apply in Broken Arrow.
Oh, okay. I don't know what the laws are. So
And I would
thought
encourage you
would
to reach out to Quick Trip.
reach out to Quick Trip.
I mean, and give voice your concern in the same respectful way you did here,
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Well,
because it
this
is a
just,
private business and they can make decisions in their
Okay.
private businesses.
That's a good idea.
So,
That's a good idea.
yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you.
We have another resident, Courtney Miller.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Thank you for taking the time to hear me out here. My name is Courtney Miller. I am a wife, mother, homeowner, small business owner, secretary for the Stonewood Crossing Board. And our subdivision is Stonewood Crossing. It's made up of 274 homeowners. This is a pretty big subdivision. I'm here today because I need help, big time. The help I'm needing is regarding a speeding issue that is plaguing our community. I provided you guys some information of the speed test studies that were done. So we'll go through those in just 30 seconds. My subdivision sits between Ascension St. John and the Battle Creek Golf Course. Lyons, Elmira Place, Fargo, Elmira Street. Those are the 4 main arteries of our subdivision. After recent traffic studies that Kenneth was so kind to help us get, we know that Lyons is the only street out of those 4 that qualifies for speed humps. But that will do nothing to stop this dangerous speeding. So I gave you guys a packet, and I'm sorry, I thought there was only supposed to be 5. My apologies. If you start with Elmira Street, which I put number 1 on, the reason why this street specifically is dangerous is it's packed with cars lining up and down it. And it also, on the way at the top of the subdivision, it actually meets Fargo Street. And there's a bus stop that lands right there. 24.79% exceeded the posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour. 2.7% of the total vehicles exceeded over 55 miles an hour. This is a 25 mile an hour zone, and personally, I think it should be 20, but that's here nor there. So let me break that down just to be very clear. Basically, 26% or 26 vehicles are driving over 55 miles an hour in a residential neighborhood. Of those 26 vehicles, 12 are going over 75 miles an hour. We don't even allow that on most of our major highways. And I've been pulled over, so I know that. Fargo Street. This is a street I live on. Well, my cul-de-sac is there, but I used to walk it. It's a very curvy street. It's a great street. It's a curvy street. 25% exceeded the posted speed limit. 1.27% of the total vehicles went over 55%. Basically, that's 44 vehicles that drove over 55 miles an hour in my neighborhood. Of those 44 vehicles, 13 were going 75 miles an hour. That's the posted speed limit for the turnpike, guys.
That's insane.
And I haven't finished off yet. Can I have one more minute? Yes. Juniper in Elmira. This is a nearly 90-degree curve. 14% of the vehicles exceeded the 25% speed limit. 1.8 of those vehicles were driving excessively at 55 miles. So break that down. That's 21 vehicles going over 55 miles an hour. 7 of them are doing 75 plus miles an hour. We need your help. We need your approval to grant these speed humps, please. Because our police department can't do it all. They can't sit there all day catching these speeders. And I know the speed bumps are not the end all be all, but they are a start. We have gotten very lucky with the damage only happening to mailboxes and cars, but our luck's gonna run out. We're gonna lose a kid. So please help me. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
You think, just from looking at this, that most of them people that live in the subdivision?
If it was Lions Drive, I would say no. But I do think that some of them, yes, are the young teenagers. Per the studies, it was between 4 and 416 was a higher rank. It was the teenagers. But I do think we have a lot of contractors. We have a lot of buildings still going on in our subdivision. But we are at Elm, and it's a cut through pass to hit Lions to get to Concord and to the golf course. So I think it could be cut through traffic too.
So you said, which street did you say qualified for speed humps?
Lions qualified, which Kenneth and I were working together. I will go get the signatures if I have to.
Sure, sure.
I have no problem with that. But there's 3 streets. We can't walk our neighborhood anymore. We used to walk it and wave. I can't walk my neighborhood because I'm afraid we're going to get hit. And we have officers who do actually live, Tulsa officers that live there. And they've had people knocking on their doors going, almost got knocked over by this car. And all they can say is contact the police department. And Broken Arrow Police Department is wonderful. Mad love for them. But they say there's nothing they can do because they can't catch these speeders. And they can't sit there all the time.
Well, I do have a question. So you have called our
We
police
have
department
called
to do
and
enforcement?
they said that we need to take a picture of the speeding. And some of those speeders, their mothers have accosted me and a couple other parents I have video of it where they think I'm taking pictures of them. I'm trying to get the license plate
Right.
so I can send it over to get the police department out.
But I guess what I'm asking is, have you called the police department and asked for enforcement?
Yes,
And have they showed up?
No. they
Okay.
try. They really
Well-
do, but
Well,
they,
we do have a hotline that you can call, but we
We
also
call them.
have the chief here too, that maybe Mr. Spurgeon, maybe we can have chief address this as well. But I used to do this. I used to work for the police department for 20 years and I worked with neighborhoods like yours that sometimes you wouldn't meet the exact criteria and you're doing the right thing by coming and asking for, some leniency on.
well, I
the
got to
rules.
give a lot of props to Rocky and to Kenneth. I got a little bit of wrong information from one department. So we ended up getting a radar sign to get these speed studies done. And these gentlemen were kind enough to help us get the studies. So now we see exactly what we're dealing with. Where beforehand, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if the board had the gumption, not saying anything bad about them, to go get this information. So, and I know speed humps are a pain. It's what, 1,500 to 2,000? I will do the work for you. I have no problem with it.
Well, speed humps will help. It will
Yes.
definitely help because if someone goes over, if they go 75 miles an hour and hit that, then that's not going to be good, which
I'm
that's on
looking
them.
forward to that
Yes.
sound, to be honest.
But I
with you.
also
Yeah.
think that we can also ask our law enforcement to come out and actually do, to do a speed zone, do the radar and that type of thing. But we'll let
We'll
the-
make you guys a bunch
Well-
of money to buy more coins.
Well,
to buy more
that's what
coins.
I was going to ask, because we can't take action on it tonight, but what we can do, Michael, is if we can have a presentation, take this data and provide a presentation on what we can do in addition to what it qualifies for under the law. What are our other options to address this? Does that make sense?
Well, actually, the traffic committee makes recommendations. I can install the speed humps if I feel it's
Yeah.
necessary once I have all the data and information. I mean, just like there's a neighborhood down, I believe, in the vice mayor's ward where it didn't show that, but I'm pretty sure we're going to do something because I believe it's warranted, it's necessary. So I just need to look at this and just confirm this data. And then I can take the appropriate action based on talking to Kenny and to Rocky. Because they're right. The police can go out there for a period of time and do enforcement.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's only works as long as somebody's out there.
Right.
And that's a challenge right now, trying to make sure that we're everywhere and be omnipresent. So
Absolutely.
if there's a way that we can provide that's going to slow people down, then that's something we need to look at.
Thank you.
Sure.
We appreciate that tremendously. Okay, I'll get out of your hair. You guys have a wonderful night.
I'll let
you.
council know. I'll keep council posted.
Okay, thank you.
You also inform her.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
He's been working with Mr.
I
Swallow.
bother Kenneth all the time.
Sounds like she's got their cell numbers.
I mean,
I think I do. I'm not sure.
This is quite
She's
extensive.
been great to work with. We will put the traffic control devices along Lyons. I actually have 3 locations worked out. I just need to get with the HOA. We have a part of our policy is we have to have the adjacent property owners sign off just to make sure. So I need to work with them. So Lyons, we should have taken care of. It'll be the other
Are there
streets.
stop signs? I know when you come to the end of a street, you're supposed to stop regardless. But are there stop signs that could be placed that would require them to stop, which would require
You
them
can,
to be slower?
you can put stop signs in there. We try not to control traffic through stop control of that nature. I'd rather actually try the traffic calming device. I've talked to Norm. I still do want to get the traffic enforcement out there. Sometime between 359 and 417 is kind of what I'm thinking. But get some traffic enforcement to get the attention as well.
If a couple of these kids drop the transmission on a speed hump, they may actually strike.
I'm not
And
worried
the-
about
and
the
the
kids. I'm
parents.
worried about a couple truck drivers that will
Yeah.
be very upset by it, which would be good.
Well, and if you
Yeah.
can let your neighborhood know when they report that speeding to the police, they do like to know the time of day,
Yes.
the day of the week, and be really specific. And even though we do have black and white rules, sometimes we can go to the gray because there's been neighborhoods that we've worked with that they did not meet the same criteria, but we were able to get speed humps in.
I was more shocked about the 75 miles an hour.
That's crazy.
It is.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, that's
blows my mind.
If I can, Mayor, I know we have a lot of people watching and we have some people in the audience, is that Kenny and I formed a traffic committee many years ago to provide guidance to the city manager specifically and to the city council. And we try to follow those guidelines because it's made up of individuals within the police, within the engineering. They look at all the data and they make recommendations to me. And there are times when I've accepted their recommendation and then done something different because I believe it's what's for good of the neighborhood. Council always has that ability to make that determination. I try to address these things internally unless someone decides to come and start with the council, and then we go back through that process. So I like the traffic committee because they, for example, stop signs are not supposed to be used to control speed. And that's what Mr. Schwab was saying. Now, they are appropriate at some locations. So let me look at this, and then we'll end up addressing this situation after I take a look at this data and talk to Kenny and to Rocky.
The yield signs do work very well. I will have to say, a lot of people slow down to make that before they make the turns. And it's those long passes that they think it's fast and furious. So I will have to say, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, general council business, item 9A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute a memorandum of understanding between the city of Broken Arrow and the Board of County Commissioners of the County of Tulsa regarding the Tulsa County Court Clerk's satellite office in Broken Arrow. Hello, sir.
Good evening. Good to see you.
I'll let our celebrity of the evening do his obligatory handshakes. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I am happy to say that an idea that was brought up during the pandemic is still going strong today. This is my third time to be in front of you to present the Memorandum of Understanding for the satellite shared office space between the City of Broken Arrow and the Tulsa County Court Clerk's Office. Over this 3-year period, we have built a great working relationship with the Tulsa County Court's clerk staff, Randy Profit, Allie Long, and Cindy Wiley. And I could go on, but right now I'm the one thing standing between Mr. Newberry and his 2 beautiful new grandbabies. So I'm going to let him present the updates and everything that they have coming up. So.
Well, hello.
Hi.
And yes, I have 2 new ones and one that's a year and a half, almost 2. So it's pretty exciting. So January 25th, 2021, we opened the doors down here at our Broken Arrow satellite office with y'all's approval. And since then, we've done thousands of marriage licenses. And at this point in time, over 30% of our total marriage licenses that we receive in Tulsa County come through the Broken Arrow office, which
Wow.
is that's pretty big. Our first event, we've done some events through the years. Our first event was on 2/22 of 22. So apparently people who are getting married really like these weird dates. And so anyway, we had let's see here, we did 33 licenses on that day. And then we did 27 weddings, which is another thing that they're doing now, which is just, it's not in our office because we're prohibited by having weddings in our office, but just outside, if you've been over there, they've set up a little venue. And so we have weddings. It's pretty intense. A lot of people. We'll have another one this next month on 3/21 of 23, which is 3/2/1/2/3. Just so you count. Okay. So we're expecting that. We're also starting on March the 3rd. We're going to start being open on Saturdays from 9 to 1. So this is an experiment that we're doing to see how, what kind of reception we get and things like that. So, are there any questions?
Your Tulsa office isn't open on Saturdays, is it?
No, it's not. So I'm expecting we'll be busy.
Yes.
I'm expecting that. We're expecting it to start with a 4-hour, and once we see how that, and we may end up going to a full day. So I think it's pretty exciting because we do a little more than just marriage licenses in there right now. We also there's some filing that can happen and things like that. And so it's pretty exciting.
I would love it if we could get to where we can pay money to file things.
So
I know there's a big hoop.
There's a whole
It would be
thing.
awesome.
Now, well, we'll get to that in the future. We'll
More
see.
homestead exemptions. I would like.
Now that was,
Yeah,
we've done some where we've had different offices or different, like the treasurer comes out and lets you pay your taxes. The assessor comes out and does. So we've had those co-joint things with the different county offices. We plan to continue that. Right now, I think we've done them maybe once a year. Maybe we can do them a little more often, just depending on what
And
the
more
reception
notice.
is and requests are. So, but we're excited about it.
No,
Who's conducting these marriages? Who's doing the ceremony? Do they bring their own preacher or justice of the peace? Lori, do you marry him?
So there's one right there. There's a couple others in her office, I think.
she got ordained for the whole thing.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
They do sometimes bring their own minister, but if they don't, we can marry them on the fly. That was honestly one of,
That's one way to put it.
well, actually, this was an idea of our lovely assistant city manager, Norm Stevens. When we came up with the idea, he said, how about we try to offer same-day marriage license? And so when we presented it to the Tulsa County Court Clerk, they jumped on it, and we decided there was 3 of us in the office and we were ordained. And I think on that one day we did like over 20 some weddings.
On which one was that? for
The
you?
2 this year, the February
I don't know what we did this year. Randy? 27.
27 in one day. And one of the other reasons, if I can share this, is one of the reasons they're opening on Saturdays is we're hoping that that is going to help us get an edge in with the Dallas passport office to allow us to start processing
Next
passports.
question.
We can't guarantee it, but we're hoping that that will give us some leverage to be able to start offering that within our office. So
That would be great.
Yeah, I did.
Because I need to renew my
Yeah.
passport.
we're hoping, like I said, can't guarantee, but we're hoping it will give us some leverage. So
Yeah, we're hoping that by having an available place on Saturdays, they might say yes.
Yes.
We'll see. I hope.
It's worth a try.
Yeah, it is. We're hoping because
Well,
we really like that.
We
really
love
like
having
building
you
it.
here and having a reason for people not to go to Tulsa.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
I'll tell you that a lot of times they'll come to Tulsa to get their license and they'll return it here because of the convenience of being able to just drive right up, run in real quick and not be fighting the downtown parking and traffic. So
Yeah.
this is a very great location and we're really thankful to be able to be a part of it. I mean, thank you guys for that and looking forward to another great year and the future. So, all right. Thank
Go
you.
enjoy those babies.
Yeah, go enjoy
Oh,
those
yeah,
grandbabies.
yeah. Fun times.
Nice. Good to see you.
Thank you, Lori.
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the execution of the memorandum of understanding.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right, item 9B, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute resolution number 1515, a resolution setting forth the creation and deposit of the economic development fee authorized by ordinance number 3750. Trevor.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. On February 14th, the electors, the citizens of the city of Broken Arrow approved the PSO franchise agreement. Within that agreement was a 2% franchise fee, but there's also a designated 1% economic development fee. The resolution before you does 3 things. It directs the city manager to deposit all the funds for that 1% economic development fee into a special designated fund that would be created by the finance department. So it's only used for those specified purposes. Second thing it would do would be direct those fees be used for capital improvement projects and the establishment of a fund for incentives to be used in connection with the retention and recruitment of jobs in the city. And the third one would be for the city manager to create specific guidelines for the use of those fees, working with tourism and the economic development team and partnering with the EDC on the development of specific incentive policies. So the main thing is we can't just put that 1% into our general fund. It has to go into the aspect of what we told the voters it'd be used for, and this fleshes that out. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. The recommendation is you approve resolution 1515.
This is a big item. This is
Great.
This is a very big item.
Anybody?
Just real quick, if I can, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. Thank you, Trevor. I asked Trevor to put this together. This is the interim step that essentially locks in where the money is going to be placed in this special fund. And act in conversation with our folks at PSO, we should start collecting the additional economic development fee probably in May. And so I'm hoping to have the draft policy to you. And that's the ultimate piece we need here is the policy that I've already spoken with Jennifer Rush and to Jennifer Conway about starting to work on to prepare to bring to you all. which will provide the specific guidelines on how they can use it as a part of their economic development efforts, recruitment, retention, with the understand the process ultimately has to come back to the governing body. Trevor will decide whether it's in your capacity as city council or economic development authority with Beta. He'll decide exactly where that will be. But I just want to make it clear because obviously I think the voters placed a lot of trust in the governing body in the use of those funds when you get 68%. And so I think we have a responsibility to be completely transparent about A, where is that money? So it's not mixed in the general fund. And then B, how's it going to be spent? And obviously there's going to be formal motions made by, albeit the city council or the economic development authority. So Curtis could easily, if there's an open public records request, could track how that money was used and what terms of what economic development agreement it was passed. Or the council will also have the option to look at capital improvements. And I'll give a perfect example how we partnered with the state to actually extend Nashville Road to help Alpha Laval. We made contributions to the road and to the water and sewer. So that's where council may say with the capital improvements portion, we may want to do something with that type of infrastructure or other infrastructure that would actually benefit the creation of jobs or the retention of jobs. So we'll go through all that, but I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and make sure you're comfortable with how this is actually put together, because this is what we're going to follow going forward until we present the ordinance and the policy.
Great. I'll make the motion to authorize and execute resolution number 1515.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Thank you, Trevor. Item 9C, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution number 1514, a resolution declaring the intent to consider approval of a project and creation of a tax increment district under the Local Development Act, directing preparation of a project plan, appointing a review committee, directing the review committee to make findings as to eligibility and financial impact, if any, on taxing jurisdictions and business activities within the district. Tom Cook and Nate Ellis.
Nate is here to address.
Thank you, Tom.
Good evening, Nate Ellis, the Public Finance Law Group. As you're familiar with TIF districts that have been done in the city before, this is kind of the kickoff resolution. It establishes the statutory TIF review committee that will review the proceedings and proposals for a project and ultimately send back to the city for a recommendation after again, the review committee is considered, planning commission, and 2 public hearings have been held. So again, this starts the process and we'll kind of go from there if this is adopted by the council.
Any discussion?
I have a comment, Mayor, if there's not anybody, the council members. The first thing I want to say is this was going to be a sales tax only TIF, and I wanted to make that the public aware of that. Secondly is that today I spoke to the Superintendent Perry, and Jennifer Rush had already spoken to him to give him the proverbial heads up that we were considering this and there was going to be a sales tax only. And then I spoke to the school board president, Steve Allen, today and explained the same thing to him. And once this resolution, if it passes, probably in the next couple of weeks, Jennifer and I will with Cindy Arnold, we'll go over to meet with the superintendent and the school board president just to give them the talking points, because I believe when the community hears the word TIF, there may be an assumption that it's got property taxes in it. And when we explain what this project is for, I think the community's going to be very excited, but the word TIF, unfortunately, sometimes has a negative connotation to it. And so I wanted to make sure the school board president or superintendent knew, and then we will meet with them to give them the details. So if they get those questions, they'll be able to answer them.
Well, and it's important for the residents to understand the importance of having it, being able to utilize TIFs. In a state that runs on sales tax, we need to have creative ways that we can have funding generated in other ways. So
Yeah. This is one of the few tools we have, period.
Yeah.
So.
And I encourage the citizens, if you have questions about a TIF, I mean, reach out to one of us, because it is a big buzzword right now with legislation. Like, they're talking about legislation at the state level, and, just reach out and ask us questions so that we can, get back with you and answer you intelligently, so you can educate yourself on something that you can figure out, wow, that really does benefit, and it's not going to affect me personally in any way, but it's going to benefit the whole city. Yeah. And, it's not going to affect the schools. So.
Yeah, I did assure the superintendent and the school board president, Allen, that, should we go forward with some other type of TIF, we would bring them in from the very beginning.
Always.
They were very excited about this based on what Jennifer shared. And they want to partner with us and want to continue. They understand the importance of economic development. So it was some great conversations with both of those leaders of our Broken Arrow School District.
Absolutely. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 1514.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Motion passes. Item 9D, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute an agreement for tax increment finance counsel services with the Public Finance Law Group. Hi.
Nate
Now
was
you're
going to
Tom.
do this one, but I told him I would handle this one.
I
This
put my head
item
down and looked
is
up and you had changed.
a recommendation to engage Public Finance Law Group to act as our TIF counsel for the aforementioned TIF. And so that we're able to remunerate Nate for all his hard work. And it is $53,000, 30 of which is non-contingent, and then 23 would be contingent upon the TIF going through to fruition.
I'll make a motion to authorize that agreement.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call. Thank you both. Thanks. Item 9E, consideration, discussion, and possible approval to establish an advisory committee for the housing and demographic study and approval of the list of representatives and corresponding institutions as listed herein. Farhad or Jill.
Maybe both. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and City Manager. The item before you today is consideration, discussion of establishing an advisory committee for the new housing study and demographic study that's just kicking off. It was approved to go to RFQ, and we've solicited invites, and we received 4 proposals for that, and we're negotiating with a top-ranked firm currently. And so the item before you is to establish this committee, and the makeup of the committee is included in your packet, includes 12 representations, including 1 from City Council, and that would be the accompanying item, the next item on the agenda for your appointment. And subsequent to the approval from the representatives on the list here, we'll bring those nominations back to City Council to let you know who those nominations were from each of those organizations. And we're estimating about 6 to 8 months timeline on this project. Once it starts, the contract is signed, and the committee should meet about 4 times is what we're estimating over the time of the project. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
No, we're just excited that this is happening.
Yes, very much
Yes.
needed.
Very much. I'll make a motion to establish that advisory committee.
Second. No.
Nope. Scott beat
Sorry.
you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right. 9G, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding approval of a waiver to section 4.1 of the land subdivision code for Serif. Where are we at? Did I
Committee
skip?
member.
You skipped one.
I did. So sorry. Item 9F, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a city council member to be nominated and appointed for the Housing and Demographic Study Advisory Committee. Jill.
Thank you. Yep, a companion item to the last. And so this item is on the agenda for council at your discretion to recommend an appointment and have a motion to vote on who you'd like to be on the committee to serve for city council. Any thoughts?
What's the obligation?
You said 4 times.
About 4 times what we're estimating meeting in person over 6 to 8 months.
I mean, I'm happy to do it if no one else is inclined to, but I don't need another thing to do either. Except, I'm happy to do it if no one else wants it.
I'm good. I'm good with that.
We're happy for you to do it, Scott.
I got this.
Congratulations. I'll make a motion that Scott Udi be the appointee city council member.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Okay. Item G, Jill.
Yes, thank you. This item before you is consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding approval of a waiver to section 4.1N of the Land Subdivision Code. It's the site that's approximately 13 acres, and what's being requested, the applicants are in the process of building a single-family home located at 3303 South First Place. As part of the Land Development Code, sidewalks are required to be installed or a sidewalk escrow be paid as development occurs along the street frontage. And so the applicants have submitted this proposed modification to the code to request to modify the requirement to install or pay the sidewalk escrow fee along the full frontage of the lot on First Place. And just a little bit of background on this, a lot split and combination request on this property was approved by Planning Commission in February of 2022, and a building permit was issued for the new structure. And the approved building permit was in March of 2022 and did include a note that the 4-foot wide sidewalk would be required along First Place. And so the area that this is in, First Place, I know you're familiar, it includes a mix of single-family residential and commercial services. And on the majority of the west side of First Place includes sidewalk and trail for the majority of that side. On the east side of First Place, just south of Washington Street, along the fire station, there is a sidewalk on the east side of First Place. So previously with this case, on Planning Commission, City Council in December approved a modification to allow a sidewalk escrow to be paid for the full length of the frontage over a 3-year period to be paid by 2025. And since that time, and why this request is before you today, is the applicant's requesting that the requirement for a sidewalk to be constructed along the entire approximately 696 feet of street frontage be reduced to 150 feet. That's the original request that went before Planning Commission. And that also included a request to pay over 3 years until 2025. And so this was heard by Planning Commission on February 9th. Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 4-1 of the sidewalk waiver request with modifications. And that modification was to allow a sidewalk escrow fee to be paid for 450 feet of sidewalk with a 3-year payment plan to be paid in full by 2025. No one signed up to speak in favor of or in opposition to the request when it was on the Planning Commission agenda. And the applicant stated that they were in agreement with this modification to pay escrow for 450 feet over a 3-year plan. And so with that, the recommendation is to approve the waiver per Planning Commission recommendation for 450 feet of sidewalk, the 3-year payment plan to be paid in full by 2025. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So how will the balance of the sidewalk be paid for?
So that would really be up to the city to make that connection in the future. There wouldn't be anything on the private side that would kick in that would require any private entities to install that
So the
sidewalk.
taxpayers would pay for
Correct.
the balance of the sidewalk.
That's right.
So when you say they're paying in an escrow, I mean, when I think of escrow, I think I'm paying in to pay for something in the future. So what?
Yes,
So what is that? So they're paying it to us,
that's
and it
correct.
just sits in a savings account until to put toward a sidewalk later? Is
That's
that what you're
correct.
saying? Okay.
That's correct.
And
Yes.
And so, but it's an amount equal to, in today's dollars, laying 450 feet. By the time it's laid, it could be it may only cover 300 feet.
Very
or
true.
400
Yes.
feet. And then the balance would have to be covered by the taxpayers.
Yes.
And what was the total footage?
Total footage of the lot is 696, and then the Planning Commission's recommendation was 450 feet, and the original request from the applicant was 150. So the city's ordinance does currently allow for property owners to pay escrow without needing to go to Planning Commission or City Council for sidewalk. So it's very helpful for under construction, for widening a project, and just paying escrow instead of installing a sidewalk that could potentially be taken out.
I love the escrow idea, and I would even be open to extending the time frame to pay it in. I'm just, and this is a huge challenge because I'm sympathetic to the property owners because that's a chunk of change. But that's a chunk of change the taxpayers have to pay if the property owners don't do it, and that's where I'm struggling.
Understood.
So later, if we go to build the sidewalk, we won't have to pay for right of way. Like,
I was getting ready to bring that up.
Okay.
Does this include grant of right of way? So that-
Well, that was the one thing that I was talking to Kenny about is that road eventually may need some widening, whether it needs to be 3 lanes. That's going to be the traffic study, but it certainly could be wider. The 2 lanes could be wider with some shoulders. And so to me, this should be conditioned upon the granting of right of way for at least the balance of the footage, because obviously we're going to have to acquire that right of way. So
Right.
that should be a consideration.
And that would have value.
I
That-
agree.
Yeah, that would have value. I could be more comfortable reducing the amount of sidewalk they bought if I mean, they put an escrow to 450. If it included granting right of way for a roadway expansion at some point in the future.
Yes.
I mean, that because then we're getting value, a clear value for what we're foregoing at the for the benefit of the taxpayer. And the property owner benefits because they don't have to pay as much, but they also benefit. I mean, frankly, a sidewalk across the front of their property will only increase the value of that anyway.
Was that ever mentioned, Jill? Because if it hasn't, maybe if they're not in any real hurry, maybe that we should just table this item and let you go back and visit and involve our right-of-way folks to make sure there's an understanding, because I think that there's an opportunity here.
I think that's a great idea. During the lot split process, that right of way was dedicated as part of the lot split, but I think it's a great idea to go back through the lens of ensuring that there's room for that sidewalk once the road is widened, that it's adequate, and see if we need more.
That's what I was going to ask you. In the planning process, didn't we get the right of way?
Yes. Yes, right of way was dedicated as part of the lot split.
But it was only dedicated for the sidewalk, not a possible expansion.
And I
of the
wouldn't
road.
be opposed either to extending the time, to 10 years, if legally we can do that. Give them time to pay it out. It
Longer.
saves the citizens, because it's probably 10 years or more before a sidewalk's built there anyway.
That's.
I mean,
You're talking about the
completely
time to
understand.
do any road work. Yes,
Right.
you're right, Councilman.
I completely understand that would be a chunk of change, and I would panic if I was told I had to pour all that and pay for it today. But giving them time to pay it out, even more than 3 years, doesn't offend me at all. But I'm just concerned about the taxpayers having to pay the difference unless there's something additional we're getting. That the idea of expanding the right of way to accommodate a future expansion makes that even better, I think, for both sides. And I'm open to, like Council Park said, I'm open to making it 5 years or more, so that it is something that's not a burden on them. Because the last thing I want them to do is build this beautiful home. I run by here, and it's just regularly on that trail, which I'm hoping extends all the way down soon. But it's beautiful. They've done a beautiful job. They're investing in our community. I love that. So there's got to be a balance, so that the taxpayers aren't covering something, but at the same time gives them plenty of time and ability so that they're not burdened by it.
So can we have a little bit more time, the council, to go back and look at it? Maybe there's an opportunity. I appreciate your discussion, and then we'll come back when we're ready, when we've looked at it further and had a chance to talk to the residents.
Yes, we'll do that.
Is this
That's for
something that would-
tabling?
Is this
Yeah.
something that would have to go back to planning commission?
I
or
think
could
it-
we not just have it come back?
You don't,
here?
there's no obligation, I don't think, but so we should advise them of it for sure.
I mean, I'd hate for them to have to go back through planning commission, and since we're aware of it, I would like to consider that it come back to us so it could be addressed in a more expeditious manner.
Agreed. There's no requirement to go to planning commission, but agreed that we'll make sure that they're aware at the next
Of
meeting
course.
of the status.
Yeah, okay.
I made a
Otherwise,
motion to
I'll
table.
be texting the mayor, vice mayor, going, what's going on?
We have a motion to table and a second. Roll call.
Good job,
can
Curtis,
I-
changing
can I-
it to table.
Can
It's quick.
Can I make a motion to amend the motion? I don't know procedurally what that's on it was motion seconded, that I have some discussion. As part of the motion, I would like it to be that it comes back to us and not to city and not to planning commission.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So I will withdraw my vote. Do I need to change my motion?
If you're inclined to amend.
I
it
would like to amend it to reflect what Counselor Udi just said.
I get you there.
Very good.
And I'll second.
I'm sorry. I just want
Okay.
to make sure it's clear.
To amend it. Roll call.
Sorry,
be here
Trevor, if
with
I
us
had to
for a
make you
while,
look
Jim.
up the rules of order.
Mayor, I know it wasn't a motion, but we'll try to do this within 30 days, so not 45 days.
Thank you. Item 9H, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of comp 390-2022 Rosewood Village.
Thank you. This item is a request to change the comprehensive plan designation on property of 4.43 acres in size from level 2 urban residential and Greenway floodplain to level 3 transition area and Greenway floodplain. It is platted as Lot 3, Block 1 and Reserve B of Creek Ridge Park. Lot 3, Block 1 is presently zoned PUD 137B in ON Office Neighborhood. Reserve B is zoned PUD 137 and RM Residential Multifamily. The property has not been developed beyond platting at this time. The owner would like to develop the property as a residential pocket community, a type of planned community that consists of a grouping of smaller residences around a courtyard or a common garden, designed to promote a close-knit sense of community and neighborliness with an increased level of contact. A draft PUD is included with your packet for reference purposes, and the PUD proposes to have up to 30 dwelling units, and 28 are shown in the conceptual site plan that's included in the PUD. That includes 16 single-family residential structures and 2 fourplexes for a total of 8 dwelling units, and 2 duplex buildings for a total of 4 dwelling units. If the comprehensive plan amendment is approved, it's anticipated that the applicant will submit a similar PUD along with a request to rezone the property to RM for Lot 3, Block 1 and FD floodplain for Reserve B. The fourplex structures are considered multifamily land use in the zoning ordinance, which is why the anticipated request, if this is approved, would be for multifamily zoning. RM zoning is not permitted in level 2, but it is permitted in level 3. Therefore, that's what brings the comprehensive plan request before you this evening. So it does include in your packet, and I will not go through all of it, but the background, there's a background that goes into the 1980s on this property with multiple iterations of PUDs. But according to the comprehensive plan, level 3 classification generally represents a transition zone from strictly residential development to strictly non-residential development. And as such, the primary uses for level 3 are higher density residential and lower density employment uses. This level of intensity should be located adjacent to arterial streets, with principal uses being higher density, single-family detached residential, single-family attached such as duplexes and townhouses, multifamily apartments, neighborhood offices, and planned office parks. Level 2 is principally used for single-family residential subdivisions. So the property before you tonight abuts level 4 to the west, which connects to an arterial street, and abuts level 2 to the north. Additionally, the property has been planned for some form of higher density housing since its first zoning case in the 1980s and 1982 with PUD 31. And this intention is consistent with the development concept that's outlined in the draft PUD with the small lot single family structures and duplexes and fourplexes. So the Planning Commission did have this item on the agenda on 3 occasions. The first 2 times it was requested to be tabled by the applicant, but there was a public hearing at each of those. So I'll just go over the comments that were received at each of those meetings. So December 15th, during a public hearing, there was one resident who spoke on the item with questions. She asked questions regarding the proposed development and how it may affect the flood area nearby. And staff was able to meet with her separately during office hours, I believe later the next week, to help answer her questions and have more in-depth discussion about the floodplain. That was her main area of concern. So I felt like her questions were satisfied at that meeting. And the item was also on the January 12th meeting. We did receive one online comment in opposition stating that the subject property should be commercial since it is near commercial development, and increased residential activity would be detrimental to nearby businesses. Additional concerns included problems that may come from proposed development being rental properties. And the applicant was present and responded to these concerns by stating that it has never had a full commercial zoning and has always been planned for some form of higher density residential use. He also clarified that these are not intended to be rental properties, but rather individual ownership. Staff recommended during the third hearing, which was January 26th, staff recommended that the comprehensive plan change be approved, subject to the property being platted, and a PUD being submitted that's similar to the draft PUD. In addition, staff recommends abrogation of the PUD 137 and 137B for this property, should the applicant return with the PUD and rezoning request. During this public hearing, no one signed up to speak in opposition or in favor of the item, and Planning Commission recommended approval 5-0 per staff recommendation. And so the recommendation this evening is to approve the comprehensive plan change as recommended by Planning Commission and staff. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion? I think it's a cute little development.
It is.
I
It's
like
unique.
being sold and not rented. property.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so they are sold, each one, is that
It's
what
going
you
to be
said?
private owned.
It will be
Each one.
private
I
ownership.
missed that, sorry.
Initially, we discussed different development options and what that would mean for the layout of the site, but the property
Cute.
owner was very intentioned in wanting to have individual lots on this property.
I'm not normally a big fan of comprehensive plan changes, as everyone knows, but this actually makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Mayor, I believe you had someone sign up and speak
did
on this
someone
one.
sign up?
Yes, sorry.
I'm sorry. I can withdraw
Thank
my
you.
motion until we've heard from them.
We did have one individual, Jenny Brown.
Thank you. My name is Jenny Brown, and I'm here along with the owner of the Rosewood Village proposed subdivision. I work with HOA Management Services here in Broken Arrow, and I actually started Lionheart Association Management 15 years ago here in Broken Arrow, and it was sold to HOA Management Services in November of 2022. And I'm here because we manage 6 associations in Broken Arrow of the 18 that we manage around the greater Green Country area. And I'm just here to voice my support. We have been working with Paul Homan, the property owner, for several months now. Usually what happens is developers get us involved when they're ready to transition and it's kind of a mess and we get to help clean up the mess. But I love the fact that Paul reached out to us because we do manage the bordering association, the neighboring association. I believe it's to the north. And so he was interested in what our opinions were, what the residents would think, things like that. But because of that, we've been able to give voice to helping to smooth out things that we've noticed in our experience can be problems down the road. But we're just really excited about this. We're excited about it for Broken Arrow. I think that this is a fantastic idea of how to develop land that, you know, would be typically pretty difficult to develop. Sure. And I think that the type of property owners that it will draw once these plans are approved and people get to see what the plans are, I think it's going to be people who are looking for community. They're people that want to be involved. Front doors are going to be facing each other. It's going to be a place you go because it feels safe and you want to feel like you belong. And so that we're here to support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll renew my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
That's a good looking.
It's a neat concept.
Whoa, that's quick.
Item 9I, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of PUD 502-2022 and BAZ 501-2022. Jill.
Thank you. Item before you is PUD 502 and BAZ 501 of 2022, and is a request to rezone 2.3 acres from A1 agricultural to IL industrial light along with the planned unit development. The property was platted in Wagner County as the east half of lots 11, 12, 13, and 14, less the east 16 thereof in Block 2 of Couch Edition, which was platted in 1958. This property was later annexed by the city of Broken Arrow on October 6, 1986. And so what's included in the PUD includes industrial light uses, as well as some specific development standards that we've outlined. And Staff has included a summary table that shows basically what the IL zoning requirement is typically and what's being proposed in the PUD, as well as some staff recommendations. So I'll go over the ones that have staff recommendations next to them. So specifically and just to give it some context too, this property is mainly around it, surrounding has A1 agricultural zoning for the majority of Old Highway 51 because it was developed prior to being annexed by the city. And as development occurs and reinvestment occurs, the property is being basically rezoned at that time to bring it in compliance with our current code. And so that's what this property owner is looking to do and to expand the site there. But that also leads to the north, just surrounding this immediately adjacent, the northwest is commercial general zoning. And to the southeast is A1 zoning, although it's not being used for agricultural purposes at that time. It's considered the non-compliance chapter. So with that, on the PUD, the side setback on this site, the IL zoning requires 0 abutting same district. There's not any abutting IL zoning from this site, but the PUD is proposing that the setbacks be 2 feet from the northwest property, which is zoned CG, and the normal requirement is 30 feet, and 0 feet from the southeast property, which is currently zoned A1 but used as industrial. And staff's recommendation is the side setback from the abutting properties be reduced to 20 feet. A reduced setback to 10 feet may be considered if a mutual access agreement with the abutting property owners is recorded and provided at the time of site plan review. And the mutual access must satisfy the fire access requirements of the International Fire Code for the proposed structure. And that's to ensure that there's room and availability for access around a building if a building were to be 10 feet from that property line. On perimeter screening, staff is in agreement to not require, which is what's being proposed in the PUD, to require the screening fence along the property line abutting the limited access highway if there's an increase in the number of perimeter landscaping, which is provided in the section below on the table. And so on the perimeter landscaping, Old Highway 51 and BA Expressway frontages, 10-foot landscape buffer is required with 1 tree per 50 linear feet of frontage and 10 shrubs per 50 or linear feet of frontage. And no changes being requested in the PUD, but staff recommends that Broken Arrow Expressway frontage have 10 feet landscape buffer containing 1 tree per 30 linear feet of frontage. These trees being evergreen. And on the Old Highway 51 frontages, a 10-foot landscape buffer containing 1 tree per 50 linear feet of frontage and 10 shrubs per 50 linear feet of frontage where a parking lot or drive abut a landscape edge. So this also is in the Highway Design Overlay District, so that applies to all properties within 500 feet of a limited access highway. This is not addressed in the PUD, but the current properties around it, as well as the current building on the site, do not meet the requirements that are required of facades and the orientation of the buildings. So in staff's opinion, providing additional screening via the landscaping outlined in the perimeter landscape section along the Broken Arrow Expressway helps to facilitate the purpose of the highway design overlay by reducing the potential for distracting visual items or clutter associated with highway development. With increased landscaping, the provisions of the highway design overlay are not required to be met within this PUD. So while not addressed in this PUD specifically, staff just notes that there is a requirement that 1 tree per 15 parking spaces be installed by the zoning ordinance, and no parking space shall be located more than 50 feet from a landscaped area, and landscape island shall be 100 square feet in size. So that's just something to make note of in the record and for the applicant. And so on the compatibility with the comprehensive plan, this property is in level 6 of the comprehensive plan, and IL with the PUD is considered to be compatible with that. So during Planning Commission meeting on January 26, Planning Commission recommended approval with a 5-0 vote of the PUD and rezoning per staff recommendation. And staff recommends that the PUD be approved subject to the modification outlined in the staff report and subject to the property being replatted. And an updated PUD has not been provided to the staff at this time at the time that we drafted this report or at the time of the meeting. One person did speak in opposition to the item in a more general sense at the Planning Commission meeting as well. So with that, staff recommends approval of the PUD and rezoning per Planning Commission and staff recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Was the applicant in agreement with the staff's recommendations?
I don't believe that they're in full agreement on all the items. I think some of them they are, but on the side setback, there was discussion at Planning Commission, and I believe that that's still remaining.
We do have several to speak on behalf of this item. So we'll start with Gary Schotten. Hi, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Watch my feet, huh? I'm Gary Schotten. I'm the owner of the property, and it's an honor to be in front of you guys. And I told one of you here, you guys got to be crazy to take the job you got. Check your insanity.
We're not smart.
I'm Gary Schotten. This will be the 5th building in 25 years that I've been somehow building a building 10,000, 12,000 feet. So I'm not a regular builder. I have 2 other properties on the same old Highway 51. I'm very in favor of the city. I'm very supportive of making the city look really good. I travel overseas. I see what cities that have no zoning, it looks terrible. Thank you. I wanted to look at everything in the recommendation by staff is agreeable. Some of it's going to cost me a little bit of money, but it's agreeable. It's the cost of making it look good. I'm only asking for one thing, one simple little thing. It's that setback from what you call the northwest border that's with the adjoining property. And the uniqueness is that I have an agreement for the mutual access easement that basically, in my opinion, moves that property line in many ways over another 25 feet. While it's not really over 25 feet, but it was primarily to meet the fire code. I had no idea that I would have a problem with the reality that there's 2 separate zonings, commercial and light industrial. And if they were both commercial or both light industrial, I wouldn't be asking for an exception. It's within the rules. So one simple little technicality says that I have to move my building over so far that it affects my usefulness between the 2 buildings the building I'm at and the building I'm building. No matter how much space I have between 2 buildings, I need more. I need all that I can in lieu of whether it's 10 feet, 5 feet, or 2 feet, that that sliver of property, you follow what I'm saying? The sliver of property has 0 value. 0 value to me, 0 value to anyone, has no use. I can concrete it, I can mow it, I can do something for the next 25 to 30, 50 years. That 10 feet, which I'm asking to be 2, would be of no value. That would be the worst case of highest and best use of a strip of land. And I know there's a consideration for precedence. Now, I have in my business career, I've normally had 50 to 75 employees. And I know about precedence. You do not do something for one of 50 people and not expect everybody else to not, chime in. Why not me? This is an exception that would not set a precedence, because who else is going to have a mutual access easement next door to satisfy every other condition? So I kind of plead with you for that extra footage. I have a 20-foot road between those, or I can have a 28 feet. That's a big difference. Thank you. I'm on my
You
time.
may have, and you're actually the property owner, so
I am the property
have
owner.
more time. So,
Okay.
so is that something where you guys have been discussing the exception
I
on
guess,
that?
I'm confused exactly where is the setback? Where on this picture are we talking about?
Between the 2?
Is it between the 2 buildings?
If it's, that's what.
Like where that little arrows.
Right here from this property line, the straight zoning requirement is 30 feet.
Mhm.
And the request is 2 feet, and staff had recommended 20 with the potential move down to 10 with the mutual access agreement. And it sounds like Mr. Schotten has that agreement in place.
So if there's a mutual, how does the mutual access agreement impact? What does it do?
It would legally allow for, say that when we get a site plan in for the new building to go in, the fire marshal's office can look at that and say, okay, there's an agreement in place. We don't have, if we cross into someone else's property, we have the legal right to do that to take care of your building. If in the incident that there was an issue. And so it provides, and it makes sure that this property owner doesn't extend their building any closer to that property line either. It must be free and clear for vehicles to drive through.
And what's the minimum width?
20. Unless the height of the building reaches a certain height, and then it must be a little bit wider.
If I could comment, we could make that mutual access width as whatever is at least 25 or more, because the owner of that other property not only is totally in agreement, but has no use. There's no way with a mutual access easement that cannot be changed, in my understanding, I'm not legal, without somebody's approval. So it's not going to be changed if I'm given that exception. And this is I know.
Justin DeBruin, Walls Design Collective. Hi. So to back up just a little bit, it's a very unique site. It's one where, as Jill had mentioned, it was annexed in 1986 under ag, but acts as industrial, commercial, kind of pseudo commercial. What we're dealing with is coming back into compliance with the current standard, which has a few layers to it. So first of all would be the comprehensive plan level 6 designation, which does require a PUD tied to the IL zoning that's requested. The use is going to remain exactly the same, office warehousing, which is what it's used for today. So what we're asking for today, and we've worked very well with Jill so far in the Planning Commission, is that we kind of honor the existing uses alongside the zoning predicament that we have, along with the highway overlay district that we're dealing with too. Starting with the overlay district, there were commercial standards that were put in place as far as facade requirements that wouldn't really meet the intent for industrial uses. Jill has a very fair recommendation, which is to increase the landscaping along the highway frontage, which we're very, very willing to do. And in fact, we put together one more site plan, if you don't mind, to show. This actually includes the landscaping, just so you can see a full picture of the site.
While we're looking, I want that place to look nice. I want to be an influence on my neighbors in a positive way. And I can be. Thank you. Valuing the time.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Okay.
Can you get rid of the side panels so it's actually full size? Thank you.
Jeff, is that what you want everybody to see?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. So we wanted to show kind of a revised site plan. So what we've done is really maximize the space with the landscaping, as you can see, on the northeast and southwest side is required. Really what we have come down to, and a big issue that we face, is the truck access, semi-truck access that's necessary on this site. You can't really see right now from the image, but on the, I'm going to have to use just the basic directions here. The northwest and northeast corner of the building, as you can see it, the one on the west, excuse me, the radius is about 28 feet. And we're fighting with literally feet just to get the radius that we need to supply the semi-truck access that's required. So every other condition that staff has, we're in complete agreement with. We are just simply asking that due to having the mutual access agreement, which we have currently listed at 25, if there's even a potential to do that as 30, and kind of make up that difference, that we can continue forward with what we're proposing. That's all I have to say.
So if they have a mutual agreement, then we're good. Is that my understanding?
Yes. On the fire side, it would meet the fire access requirements. And so staff's recommendation was to reduce to 10 feet, just because it was such a vast reduction from the original 30 to 10 and still accommodate for that fire access. But it does meet the fire department fire code requirements.
So the concern is in the city's recommendation is based on essentially not wanting to appear overly dramatic in the reduction. I mean, if I heard that correctly, is that my understanding?
Yes, and that was especially when it has the potential to affect neighboring property owners, and that this has been a recommendation since before it went to Planning Commission, and so there's opportunity for public hearing and for input from the neighboring property owners. So I think having mutual access agreement does show that they're supportive of this concept, which is helpful. And from a staff perspective, we promote being as flexible as possible in the PUD without cutting where it doesn't need to be cut.
And I think that the best part of any functioning government is consistency in the application of and that's the problem we have is consistently applying something. But this does appear to be a rather unique circumstance that would not necessarily be an issue before this council very often, if ever, because of the nature of what's happening here. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a fair statement, especially with a corridor that has a development that already occurred prior to being annexed, because you're just dealing with codes that were not in line with City of Broken Arrows at that time, and zoning that's happened incrementally, where IL could be potential in the future to the northwest, which would be a 0 setback if it was ever rezoned to IL to the northwest.
So if there's an inclination to approve this with the applicant's request, it could be made contingent upon ensuring that the mutual access agreement provided the greatest amount of complied in all respects to provide for the safe fire suppression and everything that needs to be happening. That could be part of, if it was inclined to grant that could be part of the condition upon which it's.
Absolutely, yes.
I appreciate that discussion, and I'll just say that I won't leave mad. I'm not that kind of person, and because life's too short. I'm too old. Basically, if I didn't get that, it's probably forcing me to lower the size of my building. And what a shame to lower the square footage of a building, revenue to the city, revenue to me, just because of a condition that the likelihood of this coming up again, where someone's saying, I got a mutual access easement right next to it. I'm telling you, it is an unlikely thought that would set a precedence, in my humble opinion.
Well, it seems as if it is granted, right?
Do we have record of the mutual access?
We will guarantee, you can write it any way you want. We would definitely not proceed with the project without a mutual access.
I just think it needs to be.
To verify.
We need to have verification.
Sure.
That's what I was going to say.
It's understood that we will have that. And one of my witnesses or supporters is the brother to the neighbor next door. I've known the family, we play on games here, but I've known the family for 35 years. And he's very in favor, and his brother would testify to that.
And like I said, I'm open to it making that a part of the condition.
I would want that to be as part of the condition. I want what you're saying. I will not proceed without the mutual access. That would kill the deal.
We do have others that want to speak in favor, but it sounds as if we could, they're in favor.
I mean, if they wish to be heard, then that'd be awesome.
I don't think they would mind if they didn't get
I mean, because I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the city's recommendations with amending to reflect the applicant's request, subject to the implementation and filing of a mutual access agreement that accommodates the city's requirements.
And I'll
That would be
second,
my motion.
and I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Curtis, good luck on writing that motion up.
I sincerely thank you.
Thank you,
all
sir.
And I wouldn't take your job. Don't worry, I'm not running for.
Filing deadline's passed.
Yeah, filing deadline. Yeah. Okay, on to item 10, preview ordinances. 10A, consideration, discussion, and possible preview of an ordinance closing a portion of a utility easement from SRJ Field Services on property located 1/4 mile west of Lynn Lane and 71st Street, Tulsa County. Jill, hello again.
Thank you. Only two more for me. This preview ordinance is consideration discussion of an ordinance to close a portion of utility easement requested by SRJ Field Services. And this property is a 0.03 acre site for the utility easements that's requesting to be closed. It's on Lot 2, Block 1 of Freedom Wash Edition. It is a north to south running easement on the west half of Lot 2. And it's not in use by any utilities at this time. A little bit of background on this utility easement closure. In August of 2020, an ordinance came before City Council and was approved. It was later identified that, and this was to close a 10-foot wide utility easement, which is actually a portion of what is in front of you tonight. So it was later identified that the legal description was only to close 5 of the 10 feet of that utility easement. And so the applicant has come back before the city to request to close the remaining 5 feet that remains on the site. Staff has reviewed this and recommends acceptance of the utility easement closure. And we do not have any city utilities in the easement. AEP, PSO, ONG, and Cox have also stated that they are in agreement with it. With this most recent submittal, the applicant has not received any feedback from Windstream on closing the last 5 feet, and they've documented several requests for input on this. And the last time in 2020, when it came back before them presented as 10 feet, there was no concern at that time and no objection from Windstream. So with that, staff still recommends approval and proceeding to the next city council agenda to recommend approval of the ordinance to close the remainder of the 5-foot utility easement and set for adoption. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'd make a motion that we preview the ordinance and set it for adoption.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 11A is consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3775. Jill.
Thank you. This item is related to a zoning case that was approved, BAZ 1763. And the ordinance before you today is to officially change the zoning map on the property. On May 21st of 2007, City Council approved the zoning case of a 5.84 acre site to change the zoning from R1 to C3, which is now considered CN, commercial neighborhood. And the rezoning was approved subject to platting, and the property was recently platted. This is the northeast corner of Garnett and Washington, and it was platted officially on December 29th of 2022 as 91 Garnett Edition. So staff recommends approval in order to officially change the zoning map to the CN zoning designation.
Any discussion?
Move to approve.
Did y'all see my question today about this? I can't believe there hasn't been some kid out there like going off that ramp with his bike. It's huge.
I haven't been out there, but I've heard
Oh,
it's,
it is
it's huge.
huge.
Dirt pile, yeah.
It is a huge, it's like a ramp. It goes like this.
You just announced it to everyone.
Yeah.
All the
Well, it's right next,
fencing
it's
around
right
it.
next to a park, so.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second and a new bike ramp. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. BMX, it's like,
And item B is the move for emergency clause.
I'll move for emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. We are tabling item C and D. A motion.
I'll make a motion to table. Do we?
Why are we
Yes?
tabling it?
I don't know.
Actually, we're asking you to table because there's some additional information we need to obtain. And I just going to mention in my comments, this is the best time is to look for an update from Trevor's office with regard to the matter that we've been made aware of with regarding Tulsa County and possible turning over of assets to the various Tulsa County communities.
I'd just like to know why I'm being asked to table something.
We still may ask council to take this action, but after discussing it with Kenny, who talked to Trevor, I believe it'd be best if we update the council on what's going on to give you the background of where we're at. Mayor's going to be reaching out to one of the Tulsa County commissioners to get a meeting with the city's United mayors and city managers. So we'll give you the update, and then you'll have the full understanding in case you're approached. And then we talk about it. You'll be briefed.
Thank you.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Item 11E, consideration, discussion, and possible adoption of ordinance number 3773 and ordinance amending chapter 16 offenses miscellaneous. Has to do with begging, purpose of intent. Okay, sorry, Trevor.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. As you may recall, we had an opportunity to discuss this item at the two previous council meetings. We got some great feedback from council. At the last meeting, you directed us to make changes specifically to reflect the definition of minors that follow what the state law is, which would be 18 and under. So we made those changes and revisions. Everything else has stayed the same. I'm happy to answer any questions or go through this in more detail if you'd like. But the recommendation is that you approve ordinance number 3773 and approve the emergency clause.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 3773.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. All right, remarks and.
Mayor,
I'll make a motion in a minute.
Oh, emergency clause.
Make a motion for emergency clause.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Sorry. City manager?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to let you know, as we're continuing to look at all of our options and things we can do, and there are some other opportunities we may see that could possibly help, because we're all hearing every single day from residents. In fact, it's weekly now. And I know that you all are hearing about it. I may be hearing from the same folks that you are, because I'm not asking who a lot of times. But I think that we need to continue to look at this. I know Trevor's staying on top of whatever ordinances may be passed by other communities, and whether those ordinances may be challenged, what's the likelihood of those challenges being held up, or what the statuses are. So I just want the public to know we're continuing to look at this. There's a couple of things that we noticed that we might be able to consider. So I just want the council to know this is a good step in terms of addressing the concerns to help the police department. But to me, we need to continue to look at what we can do, because of the fact that not only is it a concern to the residents, it's also a safety issues that we need to make sure we're taking into consideration. Plus the fact that, the folks that are asking, I truly want to believe that they need help. And so I think that as a city, if we could look to find ways to possibly get them to the areas or the agencies that can help them, would be my number one goal. And several council members have asked me to look at that as a part of this. And so that's what we're doing.
Well, I view this as a Band-Aid, because it's going to grow unless we address the deeper issues behind what's happening.
Yeah, I think this is a great start, and I'm glad that we're going to continue to look into it and see how much more meat we can put into it.
Okay. Item 12, remarks and inquiries by governing body members. I'll just say that our staff did an amazing job with the Community Services Expo this last Saturday. I think the new setup was really great, and they had really informative sessions. There were quite a few residents that I talked to that's like one guy said, I was going to contact you about this, this item. And then I sat in that session, and then they explained how it really works, the process of, whether it be street repairs or what have you. So I think it was very informative, and our staff did an amazing job. So thank you all.
And I do appreciate the staff. There's a lot of staff that don't normally work on Saturdays, but they were all out there with smiles on their face and working hard for our citizens. And I appreciate that. Yes,
And I
a
got
lot of
this.
good swag.
There's a lot of good swag, but this was my favorite.
Speaking of applauding our awesome staff, the other evening I had a chance to speak to a HOA meeting, updating them on road projects and other matters that were pending, and wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to Travis Small, who attended with me, and he came with a PowerPoint. I mean, he was excited. So it was, and yeah, and he was very excited. And there was a lot of counselors, we give overview, but the details sometimes and so he was able to fill in all the details that I was giving the overview on. So I wanted to thank him and thank Kenny for and anyone else in that department who was helpful in putting all that together. Because the bottom line is the Homeowners Association was very thankful. They enjoyed the presentation and they felt it was helpful to them, especially dealing with some of the issues that they have in their traffic issues in their neighborhood and adjoining neighborhoods. So thanks, Travis, and thanks everyone for making the council look good whenever we get out.
And last week we got to do a ribbon cutting of sorts at the Indian Springs Sports Complex for 4 new turf fields. And we've got so much going on with parks, and it's so fun. And people are going to start to think I'm actually a trout fisherman person because I'm spending so much time out at that pond with people getting my picture taken. And like literally every time someone goes out there that I know, they're like, "Are you coming out to the events park today?" Yes, I am. I'm coming.
Just make sure you
I
have your
literally
trout
think
in.
people think I'm out there fishing. Like, and I did learn like how to cast a fly rod, or not the whole rod, but I did not learn. It's very hard. It's very hard, but I'm amazed. Saturday it was freezing cold, and I went out there and I was like, oh my gosh, y'all are freaking nuts. It was so cold.
Enjoy.
And they were out there.
So well, if you don't catch fish, it gets colder and colder.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But people were catching trout and catching their dinner and taking it home, and they were teaching them how to, clean a fish, and it was just, I love it. It's pretty cool stuff. So thank you.
I did forget. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but we happen to have an officer that's from Brazil, and the former president of Brazil was in our city this morning. And Chief Berryhill had invited me out, and along with City Manager Stevens. It was pretty neat experience to be able to meet him. And I can't say his name. Or one more time. Yes, that. So it was really cool to meet him. So, and yes, I took a selfie with him. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Anyone else? City Manager.
Thanks, Mayor. Vice Mayor, you need to quit saying nice things about Matt because he might smile.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. I have several things. Thank you for the comments about Saturday. Staff's always looking to do better. So Michaela is going to send you an email with your thoughts on how we can expand upon there's always going to be basic sessions, and then there's going to be sessions that are germane to what's going on at that particular time. If council members have any suggestions, I want to hear those suggestions so we can incorporate in there. We'll do the same thing with the directors. We'll do a follow-up video because we want to grow it every single year. And one of the things I'd like to do, of course, it's always weather depending if it's nice enough to actually try to have some displays outside with some of our equipment. And some of the directors may cringe when they hear that, but I think that's a full service type event that I eventually like to get to, which means we may have to adjust the time when we do that. But it's an amazing job, and I appreciate all of you being there. A few points I want to mention. Got some really good news. I don't have the details. I do understand the Oklahoma Department of Transportation has awarded the contract for the road widening on County Line Road from 71st to 81st with the bridge replacement. So as soon as Kenny gets that information, we'll get it out to you. That's huge. That's a project. It's a $13 to $14 million project, probably higher, which, is dollars coming back to our community.
It's only taken 20 years.
It's taken quite a while.
I was a little boy when it started.
Yeah. couple other things is that there's many bills out there that are not in the best interest of municipalities. There were several that were pointed out to council. There have been all calls made by all of you or some of you to express your views. Thank you very much. I think that's great. I know that it's working, and we're putting an all-out effort to make sure that we don't let any of those bills that may not be good for us as a city or a municipality to go forward. So thanks for your help. Also, next Tuesday night at 6:00 at Vanguard, there's going to be our second joint meeting with the Tulsa County Commissioners regarding city and county road projects up in the north part of our city. And we held the first one of those a little less than 2 years ago, and we presented 10 road projects that we were going to be working on. And we have some amazing progress. We've completed 2 of those projects, which is Albany east of County Line Road. And council recently awarded a contract for Albany west from County Line to Lynn Lane. We also have another contract that's under construction. And then there are several other projects that we're working on that are under contract, or we're actually doing the design. So we're moving. We're going to have a great update for the citizens, and we hear a lot about the county roads in that area. So this is going to be a good follow-up. So I hope everybody can make it out, because I think it's going to be a good meeting. Speaking of the school district, we have Rosalind Van Jackson's in the audience. She comes to a lot of our meetings, and she does a great job. She works very, very well with our team, and I just want to acknowledge her. So thank you, Rosalind. And as we know, PSO's franchise approved last Tuesday night, 25 years. The documents, according to quick conversation with Michael Gordon, are being prepared, and then we'll sign them soon. And it got me to looking. This probably wasn't a good thing, quite frankly, and I don't ever like to be negative, but I wanted to find out when ONG's franchise is up for renewal. And it's in the fall of 2026. And I say that because, and I have no problem, and I hope that they hear this, is that it's one concern and issue after another, trying to get our roads widened. And that is a major hold up when we talk about getting projects completed. We've had issues on probably every single road widening since I've been here, from 209 to Lynn Lane. And I'm very much looking forward to that franchise renewal, because I believe our citizens deserve better. So it's a ways out, but I certainly I want to talk. I know several council members have spoken to individuals at the state level and expressed the same concern. I know residents have spoken to you, and we'll continue to work with them the very best we can. But we do have that franchise coming up, and we'll start that process well before a year. I promise you that. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. We have no executive session.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
The motion and second, roll call. Call the Broken Arrow Municipal Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
One moment.
Did I vote to adjourn?
Yes, we got it.
Okay, I was like, did I forget?
Hey, Ford,
Here.
Hootie,
Here.
Parks,
Here.
Gillespie,
Here.
Wimpy.
Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
The motion and second, roll call. There are no public hearing, appeals, presentation, recognitions, or awards. General authority business, item 6A, consideration, discussion, and possible action on allocation of American Electric Power check refund as a result of the overpayment by the city of Broken Arrow at the water plant. Kenny Schwab.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, trustees, Mr. Spurgeon. At the last authority meeting, Mr. Spurgeon asked me to present this item about the overpayment, how it occurred, and more importantly, what do we want to do with the money? So the money of the overpayment is just under $471,000. So let me take you back in time real quick. When the authority decided to build a water plant on the Verdigris River, we actually started a few years ahead of time going through the design process. We selected the membranes, and when we got to that point, our consultant told us, hey, this plant's going to take a lot more power than what you're used to, in the past having. So we reached out to AP, PSO, went through those discussions, got them involved. And at the same time, they took a broader look out in East Broken Arrow and out past East Broken Arrow and decided that they wanted to increase the size of their substation and go through that process to really increase the capacity, not just for our plant, specifically for ours, but also for themselves. So we entered into some discussions about, we own the land. They had a substation on the property that they owned, but they needed more land. We also negotiated, we'll do the trenching, lay the conduit from the substation to the specific, the plant itself, the high service pumps, all of this. And in May of 2013, thanks to Cricket Moore, she was able to find the agreement. She has incredible investigative skills. She found the agreement that it was, that's for you, Scott. She found the agreement that we signed in May of 2013, and it spells out who's doing what. And there was actually a charge of just under $37,000 that the authority paid. Going through that whole process, there was a discussion at the higher level administrative of what rate to charge back to Bama. Because we did so much work, had some property, and worked with them, we actually got a lower rate than what you would normally see. So fast forward from 2013 to today, they did not charge the rate that I guess everybody agreed to, but I didn't find it in an agreement. We're still looking for that. But PSO actually went through some of their own internal audits, and that's actually how they found it. They brought it to our attention last fall. So I do want to appreciate, thank them and appreciate them for doing that. They brought it to our attention and said, hey, wait a minute, it looks like you should have been charged a low rate. So as far as I understand it, the rate goes all the way back to 2015. I know Michael's in the audience. I'll still work with him to see, did we actually start in 2013? We'll find that out. But right now it's $471,000. They've already paid it. It's already been cashed. And Mr. Spurgeon asked me to present what we could do with it. So I just want to remind you that the funds are in Bama. The item that I'm going to discuss is actually a potential to spend is actually over in council. So if it's approved, we would have to make a transfer. So if you could pull up some of the pictures that were attached, I think everybody knows about Elam Park. If you've heard about the park, it's
we named it.
Yeah, top notch, class one. Yeah. We're right at the point of advertising for phase one of construction. So the council actually put a citizens committee together, and I think a couple of the council members were on that committee to go through and get input to get an overall master plan of the park. So there's a lot of things that we are talking about, even a rec center. We looked at a pool, we looked at a pump track, we look at, there's a lot of things and I can't remember all of them, but we ended up going to a phase one to try to scope in something within our budget, close to our budget. That's gone through the design, and we're actually ready to advertise that project. And I think it's just a little over $4 million. We didn't quite have enough money in what we had allotted from the bond right now. I believe it was a little over $3 million. So one of the uses that we could do is take this money and apply it towards the construction activity. Charlie and Matt are here to discuss more, but if you'll remember some of the top items that we had from the committee were, number one, this state-of-the-art playground, which was an inclusive adaptive play, which is highly important to not just Broken Arrow, but the whole region right now. We'd be the first that had something of this nature. To do that, we need a parking lot there to service it. We also wanted restrooms, so they didn't have to leave the park. Then we had talked about a fourth item was, you'll see a lot of the trees, plant a tree grove. The big item there is it takes time for the trees to grow and mature, so you want to get them started a little early. So those are the 4 items that we have included in this phase one that's set to advertise this week. So obviously the almost $500,000 would go a long ways in helping us.
So we're short in completing phase one financially.
Financially, yes, sir.
How short?
And I'll ask Charlie to come up and address the numbers.
Because if it's close to 500 or 600,000, then this would get us where we need to be.
Yes.
And I brought up the pump track, and I'll just say, I just had forgotten like how far away we were from meeting, being able to meet the phase 1 obligation. So yeah, that's not going to do it. So yeah. But it kills me when they have something in Tulsa we don't have. So, but I'm all for
It's
all
in
this.
it's in
Yes,
phase 2.
It
It'll
is.
happen.
It
It'll
is.
happen.
Yeah.
I will say on the remark of we don't have one, we do have one. We built a small one as part of our Nienhuis Park skate park expansion. It's not as big as Tulsa's that they just built, but we built
Okay.
one first.
There
So,
Well, there you go. But we have no That's restrooms true. out there, That's so. true. Yeah.
So the cost, we
Keeping-
just finished design in the last 2 months. We got a cost estimate together and we came and spoke, Matt Hendren and I came and spoke with Mr. Spurgeon a few weeks ago. Talked to him about what everything the committee recommended that you see here. And then we said, this is what the cost of what was recommended. And we said, can we do it or do we need to cut stuff out? What the cost is of what we're recommending today, the architect estimate is about 4.3 million. We have about 3.1 in funding currently. The gap, the recommendation from Mr. Spurgeon was some of this money would close that gap. We also had some unnamed bond project money that was available that we thought we could use to close that gap. And then I think there were some other ideas. I don't want to presume what they were, but maybe closing with STCI or something if you want to expand on that.
Actually, we're going to look and see if Rockies.
Yeah,
folks could do a
Rocky's
small
Cruise, we were
portion.
talking about building the parking lot, and then there's still maybe a really minor gap that we were looking at some other ways.
So if we were to approve, and I don't know why we're saying some of this, it looks to me like we've got $471,000 we can put over on this completely and knock it out. So if we were to approve that, then that would put us, do you feel comfortable that we could actually get this built? Because the phase 1, it needs to be full. I don't want to cut anything.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
My recommendation, we do this, and we're just short just a little bit, and we'll make that up with SDCI.
But just to clarify, so the money was paid to PSO out of our BAMA account, and it's within our legal rights to transfer that money then to our general fund to be able to pay for these things.
Right.
Correct.
I just want to make sure.
We have not specifically looked at that, but I know that we
Points
can.
to Trevor.
I'll have to talk to Cindy about that.
I played
I
an
think it'd
attorney.
be fine, but I'd like to double check that. 'Cause
Thank
it's
you.
not
I would
something I've
like for
looked
you
at.
to.
So
Tom.
No, we can't. We have a transfer currently from the municipal authority to a governmental fund. So it should fall within the same purview.
Yes.
So if I were to make a motion to approve the transfer of these funds to the city, subject to approval by legal, and those funds be applied to the park, that would get us where we need to be.
Yes, I would take that direction, and then at the next meeting, we would go through that transfer process. Make
Appropriate
sure
change
that all the
orders.
documents are there.
Do you need a formal vote on that? Because if that's the case, then I'll make that motion.
Well, I just want to say one first, council member, is I think the plan that Charlie and Matt presented is consistent with what the council said and the advisory committee recommended, and this is absolutely amazing. And I don't want to sell our residents short. We have some one-time money, and that I think this is an excellent use of that to put it back into the citizens for everyone to be able to use. That's why I recommended this, is because everyone can benefit from this park, and I would certainly like to see council consider that.
I was on the committee. I know the vice mayor was too. I don't want to see anything cut from phase 1 because that's
Agreed.
going to be what propels us and gets the support for phase 2. Plus, it's going to be pretty amazing based on just what little I've heard already. So I mean, I still am ready to make that motion if that's okay.
Make it.
Consider it
I'm going to
made.
make it.
Well, I mean, I just worded it, so are
Second.
we clear on the wording, Curtis?
Clear as we need to be. That's why we're
Recorded.
thankful for the recording.
We have a motion and a second.
I keep drafting these motions on the
Roll
fly and I
call.
don't know what's happening.
I'm not sure what I just seconded, but yes, I want that part.
Basically, to utilize the funds through the appropriate change orders
Right.
and transfers to be used in connection with phase 1 of Elam Park.
That was a very good motion. Thank you very much.
Thank
Did I
you.
do good, Trevor? Making my first motion?
Right.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yeah.
That's what I said.
Smile now, Matt.
Remarks and inquiries by governing body members. Are there any? City Manager?
Nothing can top that, Mayor.
Okay. There is no executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Call the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority meeting to order. Roll call.
Ford.
Here.
Udi.
Here.
Parks.
Here.
Gillespie.
Here.
Wimpy.
Here. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Sorry, I got distracted. Chief, did you hit that button?
trying to hide back here.
That door just like ghostly opened all by itself and no one was standing there. Sorry.
We didn't say anything.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm back on track. Okay. There are no presentations, and then we move to general authority business. Item 6A, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute an agreement for tax increment finance council services with the Public Finance Law Group.
Chairman, this is the companion to the item the council already approved. The authority will actually be the payer of this agreement. And then like our other TIFs, we will reimburse the authority from proceeds. Would ask you to approve that agreement.
Any discussion?
Make a motion to approve it.
Second. Christie, second. Right?
Motion and a second. Roll call. Item 6B, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an authorization to execute a lease agreement with the First United Methodist Church and the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority for the purposes of providing additional parking in the Rose District. This is exciting.
This is very exciting. Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and trustees. I'm very excited to bring this proposed lease agreement before you because, first of all, I want to thank everybody up here for the support of the Rose District, and then also for all the planning, creating, and growing such a vibrant downtown. So many staff, and Norm Stevens and Kenny Schwab, city manager, has been part of that. So y'all have made my job fun, and I'm truly blessed to come to work every day. Seen some exciting things happen within the Rose District. Property sales are breaking records. Our offices are receiving calls every week from people that want in the Rose District, some from locally, some from out of state. So it's exciting to be part of the hot area in town. But currently we see interest in the Rose District. It's expanding from both north and south. So development is starting to spread out to the other areas. So, success doesn't come without its challenges. And I think that we all know that the number one complaint about the Rose District is the lack of parking. So one of the things that when we were searching for additional areas for public parking and talking with the city manager, we thought of some creative solutions to not take away from existing property that has the potential to generate potential revenue. So there is some existing property. And so we started looking at what parking property is already available within the Rose District that could be available for a potential partnership. That is where the discussions with the First United Methodist Church began. So they have, with the addition and with improvements made to their public parking spaces, would bring in a minimum of 110 public parking spaces to the north end of the district, which we see a lot of the development coming into. So this agreement with them would be a lease, a long-term lease of 15 years. That provides the city some time to continue to assess parking situations within the district. So with that lease, the church is very aware that that would be public property. And so it doesn't mean on Sundays and those type of things, if it's already filled up, they know that their members would need to park somewhere else. The good news for the church and for the city is that I think the activities that occur in the district and the activities that occur at the church are also at differing times. So most of the businesses are closed Sunday mornings or on Sundays completely, allowing them to continue to use their parking as they've been using. So with the lease agreement, what we did is we know we've got to make some public improvements to it to bring it up to the standard of the overlay and the requirements. And so we took the church requested that we take a market rate, and we took the amount that we're going to apply towards the construction out of that market rate. And then with the city manager, we did some additional negotiation that if we were to pay the lease agreement up front, there was also a discounted price to the city. So I think this is a really good lease agreement and provides additional parking and starts solving some of the problems in the Rose District.
I think there's in the rent and improvements, there's a reference to the lessor that should be lessee. Just a Scrivener's error.
On what page, Counselor Edie?
Page 2, paragraph 3, rent and improvements says lessor shall pay. Then it talks about all the things the lessee's going to make payment. I just think we may have lessor and lessee. Just a Scrivener's error. I wanted to.
You're right, and we could note that if you do approve the agreement, that's subject to correcting the Scrivener's error in section 3, page 2.
I just wanted the motion to reflect that so that it just as was appropriate.
Yes, sir.
I'd make a comment too that this is a great location, especially for starting our parades that we start. People parking, kids parking, and all that. I would say it's a 15-year lease, so I would say that we would certainly need to continue. I don't want to end up in 15 years, then completely short on parking spaces. So we need to continue looking for parking spaces in the downtown, although I'm all for this, there's no problem. If it had been a purchase at the end of it, that would have been good. But since they're not, possibly we need to certainly continue our endeavor to try to find city property for this long term, because 15 years will come pretty fast.
Well, and the thing I like about it is it gives us right of first refusal if they determine to sell it.
Right.
It also allows us to terminate the lease at any time with 30-day notice. So if we do find additional parking, and so the lease was well
I
negotiated.
just want to make sure we continue that endeavor. You know what I mean? Because I'd like to see the city own that property, that parking.
I just want to say I love how you thought outside the box. And I think that's what sets our city apart from other cities who would have thought, like I would have never came up with that idea. And I think it's a great idea. It solved a problem that we had. It's helping the church. It's helping our citizens. And I just feel like it's a win-win. Good job.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you, ma'am.
Jennifer worked really, really hard. This took a lot of back and forth because obviously it's a business deal and the church had an interest, and I think they worked with us. You remember the church was here a few years ago during the Brio. Was very, very, very concerned about this. And so this shows the partnership and trust that they have to work together to come up with a solution for both parties. And so I couldn't be happier with the efforts of Jennifer, and also with church working with us in terms of the way they came to the table with us, and then the compensation, and also working with us to make this happen. So they need to be committed as well. So thank you very much, Councilmember.
I would like to make the motion to execute the lease agreement with the First United Methodist Church and the Broken Arrow Economic Development Authority. Oh, I'll second it because apparently
I was just about to speak when you started liking.
You're welcome.
I know. We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Madam Chair, I would say the council, authority member Parks is correct, as we are not sitting on, not trying to find additional parking. That is something that we understand that the folks want to park very close to the businesses, and obviously that's a challenge. It is a challenge to have parking downtown. We're continuing to look, and that's one of the things when we start talking about a new city hall and the possible opportunity to address, because we're addressing on the north end. And I still believe there's a need for additional parking in the center of our main area of our district, because we're starting to see development off of the main street. So his point is well taken, and we'll continue to look.
And I think this is a great location. As I said, it's just, we talk about this central part, but it's a great parking place. You know what I mean, in doing that. So I'm very much in favor of it. I just want to see us continue getting more parking spaces.
All right. We have any remarks from governing body members?
I waited till the very last meeting that we had to congratulate IT on Johnny Parks's computer not having a problem at all through this whole
So
meeting.
you guys blame me.
I don't know if you got a new one, but it went really well.
There
So
were no issues.
thank you, IT staff. You did a great job. But I did not want to say that like
At the
council
beginning.
meeting.
Yeah.
It's gonna wait till the
You want to
end.
jinx it.
Yeah.
Exactly. City manager.
And we
I
haven't
have done that.
All right. There is no executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Needs to work one more time.
I know, right?
Oh. We need to click it again. They want to do it faster.
I already shut down. Did you get mine? I literally turned my computer off. I already voted.
We keep getting the same.
Yes. Thank you, IT.
Yes, thank you, IT.
Oh, my goodness. Curtis, I clicked it before and it's not showing it.
You can correct it.
Okay, thank you.
I watched her vote.
I know, I did, and then I.
I was on March Sunday. My grandson.